So since we spoke before about Yoav, we're going to have another version of what happened to Yoav shortly. Also a very interesting war, different consequences. And over there, we didn't have a wise woman or a wise man to save the day. We are studying the book of Shmuel Bet. We're in chapter 11. And it's verse 15. Let's go back to verse 15. David HaMelech met his match, met his wife, woman that is going to eventually produce the heir to the throne, Shlomo HaMelech. The problem is that she was sort of involved with another man at the time. She was not officially married. She was married and then divorced, actually. The man was Uriya. Uriya was one of the 37 heroes, the main soldiers, the strong heroes of David HaMelech, Giborei David. He was, according to some, he was the bigger, the most significant of them in terms of strength. No wonder, because he was the caddy or the helper of Goliath. May he rest in pieces. So he was a really well-trained soldier who converted to Judaism, and on that moment when David HaMelech killed Goliath, he was there, and David HaMelech, he helped David, and then he basically agreed to convert. He saw that what we are providing is a little bit better, and he became a true ger, and he was married with Bathsheba, who was very young, and he was not really having a relationship with her yet. He didn't consummate a relationship with her yet, because she's young, because he was busy fighting. He was one of the main soldiers. Not really sure why, but that's the fact. And what was happening is that he refused to go home. When he had an opportunity, came from the battlefield, was summoned from the battlefield. He was refused to go home. So everybody knew that something is fishy between their relationship. Why was he summoned to come home to Yerushalayim? Uriya and Bathsheba lived almost next door to David HaMelech, to the king, not far away. David HaMelech saw her and had slept with her, and she became pregnant. And at that point, the priority number one for David HaMelech was to avert a scandal that here a woman who is actually was involved with one of his main soldiers, is being taken by the king. Yes, she's divorced because they gave a get, divorce papers before they went to war, but it's really not ethical, it's not proper, and that's the problem. The problem is the ethical problem. David HaMelech, everybody says David HaMelech did not really sin. It was just a serious ethical issue that he got involved with, and he suffered greatly for it, and we'll see soon how. But so after she became pregnant, we need to avert the scandal. What's the idea? Is let's summon Uriya. Let's call back Uriya from the war. He's right now encircling amongst the troops that encircled the city of Rabat Ammon in Jordan, in nowadays Jordan. It was Ammon in those days. Basically conducting a siege, he was summoned to come back to Yerushalayim, and hopefully will agree to be with his wife, and then people will think that that's his daughter, or that his son, that the baby is his. But he, as we mentioned before, he had a very strange relationship with his wife. So when he came back, he doesn't want to see her, which is totally strange and weird. And then he comes to the king, and this is something that we didn't mention. We did mention part of it, but not what I'm going to say now. He basically disgraced the king. He does not. He disrespects the king in a serious way, because he's telling him. He's bringing David HaMelech was trying to make small talk with him. How you doing? So he tells him the story of what's happening on a battlefield, and he's calling Yoav. Yoav was the general, was the leader of the army, but he was definitely under David, right? He was just a general. He's calling Yoav my master in front of David. Instead of calling, His Highness my master, he's calling Yoav my master. And that is basically rebelling in the king, because someone who has the power of the army in many times in history ended up throwing the king off the throne and taking over. So supporting something like that sounds very much like a start of a rebellion, which will come soon. The time of David HaMelech, there will be a rebellion, a couple of them. And that's punishable by death. So as soon as he does that, he basically writes his own conviction and set himself for the final countdown for the end. Now, what we'll see now, we will learn how his end came about, what happened, and it was not natural. It was, but it wasn't. But it was very much manufactured by David HaMelech. So David HaMelech sees that the guy disrespects him. He sees that he doesn't want to go with his wife. He sees that we have a terrible balagan here coming. And if Uriya does not want to cooperate and go to his wife, so the only other option is to just get rid of him. So what does he do? Uriya is a very strong, soldier, rah, let's go fight. So you want to go fight? No problem. We'll send you. We'll send you to the front. We'll send you to the front where you're going to die. Now, he writes a letter. He writes a letter to the head of the army, to Yoav, the guy that is in charge in the field over Uriya, and tells him, this is the plan. I'm sending Uriya, send him to the front line, and set him up in such a way that he's really, fighting in front, and then you and everybody else retreats and leave him there to die. Whoa! And that's a great plan if you want to assassinate someone, right? But he hands this letter to Uriya himself. He says, go with this letter to Yoav. It's Uriya could have opened it, but he didn't. David HaMelech was hoping that maybe he will open it. Maybe we'll see. Maybe he will flee. Maybe he'll just run away and disappear from the scene, averting the scandal some other way. But no, Uriya takes the zettel, take the paper, and goes back to meet Yoav. That's where we left last time. By the way, the fact that David HaMelech added those 4 words, V'shavtem acharav v'nikav amed, that you should retreat, fall back behind him and let him die. Those 4 words got him in trouble in this story. That's the unethical infraction that he committed, and he will pay dearly for it. So Vayibishmor Yoav al ha'ir. So what does Yoav do? Let's just talk a little bit about the strategy over there. Okay, the strategy was the city of Rabat Ammon was a fortified city. It was very strong walls, strong army, but one city. They used to have a lot of friends. They bought friends with money, a lot of it. In previous battles, they hired people, other nations, to come and help them in the battle. But that didn't turn out well for those other nations. They lost. But the city of Rabat Ammon remained safe because the people would retreat into it and will just, be in a bunker, so to speak, in the city, and David HaMelech refrained from attacking them at that time. Now it's time to retaliate. They're not cooperating, so he encircled the city for a few months now. About 3.5 months, the city is under siege, and Yoav is making sure that it's a very strong siege. Now, when there are some rules in the war, when you battle people, when you battle an army, you can encircle them from 3 sides, but you have to leave a 4th side for them to run away, because if they feel that they have no choice but to fight or die, they would fight. If they have another choice to run, they might run. But when you have a fortified city and you're trying to starve them and you try to get them to start fighting, then you have to have very tight siege from all sides. Now, there is in those days they used to build the cities the cities that were built with walls used to be built with a couple of tunnels. Okay, so you've seen all seen those movies where the king is wearing something and going under the tunnel and escaping the city and going to call for help, whatever. So a lot of the cities would have those secret entrances, tunnels, secret entrances, inside a bush, inside a tree house, whatever, some way to get in and out without the enemy finding out about it. There is a famous story in the first chapter of the book of Judges, which we learned a couple of years ago. And over there it was the Ir Luz. We were trying to conquer the Ir Luz, and it was a fortified city. So we basically the tribe of Yehuda, who was leading the charge, caught a person and told him, listen, you either tell us what the secret entrance to the city is, or we're going to kill you. If you tell us, we won't going to kill you. We're going to release you, and you're going to be a happy man. And he said, let me think about it. Okay. And he gave them the secret entrance to the city. So here, they knew that there is a secret entrance to the city. So what did they do? They had the siege very, very tight. When you have a secret entrance, you have to be very close to the walls in order to make sure that nobody comes in and out. That you really keep a very tight handle of it. But you need to balance it also. You need to balance it also with not being too close, because if you're too close, they can just shoot arrows from the top of the from behind the wall, or they can throw stones or can throw whatever and kill the people. So you can't just stand right there. It has to be tight. You have to be close, but not too close. Now Yoav was very versed at how to do it, right? So Vayi bishmor Yoav al ha'ir. So Yoav, was organizing. He was a tremendous general. He was organizing the forces. Vayitan et Uriya el hamakom asher yada ki anshe chayil sham. So he stationed Uriya where he knew all of his able warriors, all of his friends are, all of the people who were the elite unit, which is very likely to be involved in the skirmishes. Why do we have skirmishes? Because the city is under siege, and it's very difficult to use this secret entrance, because then Yoav will reveal it. So they were trying from time to time to break out. They would try to break in, so there will be skirmishes from time to time. So Yoav stationed the elite units in the hot spots, and that's where he put Uriya. He joined him to that unit, to the hot spot unit. Vayitzu anshe ha'ir vayilachamu. Soldiers came out. The wars of David HaMelech, what happened on a regular basis is that he won. That he didn't have casualties at all, of not much. He would prevail. And here we see a little bit of a diversion from that. Vayipol min ha'am me'avdei David. So there are casualties. There are people who die. This is not a clean war. It's not, a war that you sit afar and kill the enemy with drones and then go home to have ice cream. It's they were right there, and a bunch of them died. A bunch of those elite unit people died. Vayamot gam Uriya Achiti, and also Uriya was amongst them, and he died. So let's see what we have here. Let's just take inventory. So Uriya was sent by David to the war because he wanted to get rid of him. David HaMelech is the greatest believer in Hashem. 1 second. Oh, sorry. Everything's okay. He's the greatest believer in Hashem, and he knows that Hashem is not going to create events that we don't deserve. In other words, whatever happens needs to happen. It's not just by chance. So David HaMelech thought, let me send him there. If he needs to die, as I think he should, God will make sure that he dies. I'll put all the circumstances together, put him in the front, make sure, we'll arrange, we'll help it, but or provide the opportunity. But obviously God manages everything, and he can make it happen that he's not going to die, but he did die. Uriya did die. And I guess it was it was natural for other people to die. It was natural in regular wars, but not for us, not for David HaMelech. So Yoav, who was managing all of that, the rabbis are saying that he originally was a little bit confused as to what David is asking him to do. It's a strange order to take the best soldier, some said that Uriya was the best soldier, and basically set him up to die. That is not okay, for a general who, doesn't want to, take out his ace. And what happens also, all of his friends were there, right? He was placed amongst his friends with the elite unit. So now the morale over there is down because the best guy died. And some other people also died, which is uncommon. So that is already, now we have a problem. Why? Maybe we should just leave him alone and go back, Yoav read, I guess, the message several times and figured out that he needed to do what he needed to do. He didn't really understand why. But then when he figured out what happened, he says, listen, that ain't my fault. Because I did not want to kill Uriya, and I orchestrated it based on a direct order from the king. So he needs to know what happened, and he needs to know the bad news. You got to deliver to him the bad news that it did not go, that the campaign did not go as expected. Vaishlach Yoav vayaged leDavid et kol divrei hamilchama. So Yoav sends a messenger with a full report to the Pentagon to let them know exactly what had happened. And he's giving special instructions to the messenger because he's bearing bad news. And Yoav, doesn't want to be faulted for botching the campaign here, because he knew better. He knows how to do it. But he wanted to make sure that when the information get to David HaMelech, he's being told the right way. So he's telling him exactly what to say, which the messenger promptly does not listen to. Vayetzav et hamalach. So he told the messengers as follows. לאמור, ככלותך את כל דברי המלחמה לדבר אל המלך. When you tell him, when you finish reporting to the king everything about the battle, okay, please note that I'm fully expecting the king to be upset, to pop, for the king to pop his lid essentially and saying, how dare you ran a battle in such a way that people died. והיה אם תעלה חמת המלך And if the Melech gets angry, ve'amar lecha, and he told him, the Melech, he is expecting, they know each other very well. They're, the king is Yoav's uncle, right? So David knows him from youth, and he's his general for many years now. And how many years? 30? About 30 years? 28 years? A bunch. He knows that there is a very good chance that David HaMelech will be upset. So he says, and he would know what David HaMelech would know, what David HaMelech will claim, will blame. It says, "Ve'amar lecha," maybe when the king will be upset and he will tell you, "Manu nigashtem elai lilachem, alo yadatem asher iru ma'al hachoma." Why did you get too close to the city to fight? Didn't you know that they're going to shoot from the top of the wall? This is what they do, right? So you had to be right out of range. You cannot be, right there within range. You have to conduct your siege, but you have to be out of range. And how dare you didn't do it? And, it's, the promotion is not going to come to the soldiers that quickly. And then he's telling him, Yoav is telling the messenger, that this is what David will say. David will bring from history a story that everybody knows, that everybody's familiar with, that everybody's upset with, and a story that is being learned is being taught in all the military academies, you should have known better. What is the story? The story goes back to the sixth judge. There were 15 or 20 judges, that were judging us, and number 6 was a gentleman by the name of Avimelech. Who was Avimelech? We learned it, but let's just remind ourselves a little bit. Who was Avimelech? Avimelech was the son of Gidon. Okay, Gidon was one of the best judges. He saved us from terrible, from idol worshippers. He saved us from a terrible enemy, and they offered him the Jewish people offered Gidon an office for life, George Washington style, and he said, no, I don't want it. I'm not interested in it, I will rule, but I don't want to, my family to. He had several wives, and he produced 71 children. And his offsprings were, people thought that one of them will become a king, eventually will become a judge, the next ruler. Now, some people thought, okay, so Gidon didn't want to, and he didn't set up a succession plan, so we'll use all 70, or a lot of the 70, and they're all going to rule. They're all going to be in charge because they were fit for the job, apparently. One of them was Avimelech. He was one of the kids. He was one of the kids that was born not from the official wives. He was from a concubine from Shechem. And he decided that it doesn't fit his agenda that all of his brothers will rule together with him, and he may rule or may not rule. He wanted the throne. He wanted to be the ruler. He arranged to kill all of his brothers. So he somehow, he arranged a militia. He was a hoodlum. He arranged a militia. And he's the only judge that is being, that we told that he was a rasha, was an evil person. The only judge, and he ruled for 3 years, a short period of time. But he arranged to kill all of his brothers but one. The only one was Yotam. He killed all of them on one stone. basically slaughtered them all. And Yotam saw it and he ran away. And there is the Mashal Yotam. Yotam was giving an analogy of what's going on here. It's mentioned, it's a whole chapter, not chapter, but it's a long explanation, a long poem that discusses what happened and what will be with Avimelech, which turned out to be, which we'll see in a second what happened. So Avimelech ruled, and because his mother was from Shechem, he was gravitated towards Shechem. And when he was in Shechem, the people of Shechem said, hey, you're a Jew boy, you're not from us. We don't like you. And you're an outsider. And when he was outside, they told him that he's from Shechem. So he was arranging to conquer both the city of Shechem and the surrounding cities. He conquered successfully the city of Shechem, destroyed it, burned it down, put salt all over it so nothing will grow over there for a period of time, and then he moved to the next city. In the next city, his luck ran out. Okay, he was trying to attack, and the people of the city ran into a tower. They built apparently a tall wooden tower, and it was able to house all of the people. And from there, that will be their fort, and that's where they're going to fight from. So he thought, let me get closer and just burn the damn thing down in the tower and kill them all, 1,000 people. That like he killed it's exactly what he did in Shechem right before that. So he gets closer. There was a brave woman over there that took to the tower. She had some rod that was used for a wagon, an axle of a wagon, and she threw it at him. And he was as he was getting close, and instead of burning the tower down, he ended up with a rod on his head, and he was injured gravely. And he didn't die on the spot, but he told the helper. Each one of them had a helper. We saw that with Saul as well. Had a boy or an able young man who would help them carry the weapons. He told them, kill me now. I don't want to be remembered as the one who was killed by a woman. That in those days, that was, they didn't have MoveOn.org, they didn't have all these movements. And if someone would be killed by a woman, oy vey, that'll be, the history will memorize him for disgracefully. So he was killed. But the bottom line is, how was he killed? He was killed by getting too close to a wall. The enemy was on top of the wall. On top of it was a tower at that point, and somebody threw something. So a woman who's in those days was the weakest force, when you fight, she was the weakest one, and she killed the head of the people, the head of the army, the head of the judges, the judge, the ruler. So that lesson was learned and was studied very well and was internalized by all of the military soldiers, all of the generals. They knew you're not getting close. So Yoav now, after what happened in Rabat Ammon, is exactly that. They got too close, and the people of the city came out and started shooting from on top and ended up killing Uriya and several other heroes. So he was ready, he was preparing the messenger who was about to deliver the story of the battle to David HaMelech. He told him what David HaMelech would ask him. It says, Mi kait Avimelech ben Yerovoshet? Who killed Avimelech, the son of Yerovoshet? Yerovoshet was a nickname for Gideon. It's a name that represents Yerovoshet is fighting with the idols. That's putting them to shame. That's the nickname that Gideon was received from the enemies. So he's calling him Avimelech ben Yerovoshet. Halo isha, ishlicha alav pelech rechev. It was a woman who threw at him an axle, I guess, an upper milestone. It's not an upper milestone. It's an axle. Me'al hachoma, over the wall. Vayamet betevetz. Tevetz was the name of the city, and he died there. So I'm expecting, says Yoav to the messenger, that David will tell you, Lama nigashtem el hachoma. Why did you get close to the wall so much that you lost the best soldier, Marta? So Yoav is giving him that you lost people. So Yoav is giving him the secret word. Ve'amarta gam avdecha Uriya Hiti met. And so you should tell him that also it's not just other people died. Uriya also died. And this way, that's a hint, that I fulfilled what you told me to do. I didn't really understand what you want from me, why you want it to be done, but I did what you said, and Uriya Hiti died, and that will be the secret message to David HaMelech to, sort of, if David HaMelech would be upset, to calm down and not get upset at the loss of the battle, because this was an ordered loss. So, Vayelech HaMalach, so the messenger sets out. Vayavo vayagel David et kol asher shalacho Yoav. So he tells everything that Yoav told him to say, and then he does not wait for questions from David HaMelech. He just, spills everything, all of the information, whether he was asking, David. So he says, Ki gavru aleinu anashim vayitzu aleinu hasadeh. Those people, they prevailed from above, and they also came out. So, so he came up with an answer. Instead of telling the reason why we got close to the wall and, too close for them to fire over, he says, we got there, but the people came out. So he came up with a different answer. Probably that's what happened. That's why he was saying it, but he wasn't listening to what Yoav was telling him to say. So we sort of got close, and then they came out and attacked us. A lot of people came out, and in order not to break the siege, so we drove them back to the gate. That's how we got close. We got close because we drove them back into the gate. It's not that we got close first and then they attacked. Vayiru hamorim el avadecha ma'al hachoma. And after we were pushing the foot soldiers who came out of the gate to attack us, when we pushed them back into the gate, we became closer in a close range, and we were within the reach of the archers, and the archers were shooting whatever they were shooting. I don't know if they were archers or whatever they were shooting from over the wall. And vayamutu me'avdei HaMelech, and they killed a bunch of Your Majesty's men. V'gam avdecha Uriya Hiti met, and also Uriya Hiti died. When he says that, David HaMelech is happy. David HaMelech now needs to play the game. So, and the problem is, David HaMelech thinks that he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. Again, the rabbis are saying again and again and again that Uriya was a dead man because he disrespected the king. He gave an impression that he starts a rebellion. The king told him to go to the house. He said, no, I'm staying here. I'm sleeping here. I'm not going to go. Again and again, several times. Even when he wasn't drunk in a stupor, David HaMelech thought, let's get him drunk and send him home. He was holding head and refusing to go. He was really not happy with the king for whatever reason. But that people didn't know. People only knew that he's a strong soldier and that he's one of the heroes, and he knew his history. But so they didn't really know the story that he had something against David in his heart of hearts, and he acted upon it. So now it's expected that the people are going to be upset. So, and he feels that because the story, that the way the messenger gave him the story was such that he was talking too much. He was giving a lot of reasons and a lot of information to suggest that it wasn't Yoav's fault, it wasn't this fault, it wasn't somebody else's fault, whatever. So David el Malach. So now David HaMelech is trying to calm him down. So he told him, Ko tomar el Yoav al yira be'enecha. So he said, go back, and this is a message back to Yoav. Don't be upset and don't be distressed because of this event. Et hadavar hazeh. Ki kazeh v'kazeh tuchal acheret. Because this is normal that when you go to war, you have casualties. That's normal. So don't be upset that those people died. Achzek milchamtecha el ha'ir ve'arsa v'chasker. So he said, continue. Don't even think of stepping down, of retreating. Continue to press on the attack and eventually destroy the city. And he tells the malach, he tells the messenger, encourage him. Chaskeu. Encourage and strengthen Yoav. Don't worry about it. I understand. Not mentioning anything about Avimelech, obviously, because it was the messenger was telling the story a different way to solve that problem, so to speak. Anyway, Vatishma eshet Uriya ki met Uriya isha vatispod al ba'ala. So one of the other pieces of information that the messenger came to say is that Uriya died, right? So his wife Bathsheba hears it. Ki Uriya isha. So isha, that's her husband. And there are two words in Hebrew for husband. Okay, one of them is her man, isha, and another one is her master, ba'ala. Okay, now the relationship is such that the word isha is being used when you have a lovable relationship, when you have a good relationship, when you have isha is from the word ishut. Ishut is a sexual relationship. So when you together, that ish ve'isha, so you call it isha. But when you call ba'ala, means is more my master. My baal means an owner, right? So ba'ala is so, and it's in modern Hebrew as well. You have those two words, and most of them using ba'ali. My husband is a baal rather than ishi. Ishi is more poetic. Anyway, so she heard that isha, that her husband died, but she knew that they didn't have any close relationship. So when she was expected to be sad about it, she was mourning, she lamenting her husband. Husband is ba'ala. It's more of a fearful relationship, and she was mourning that. Now, the problem is that they were not married, that she had a get, he had divorce papers. So what's going on here? What is she sitting shiva, so to speak, on someone who's not her husband? So there is a whole discussion in halacha about this kind of a status, because it became a custom to protect the women from becoming agunot, from becoming stuck with when the soldiers go to war and they die, they don't come back, and nobody actually saw them die. They just end up disappearing and never coming back, like happens in a war. They become agunot. They cannot marry forever to anyone else. So in order to avoid that, they would give them a get. The soldiers would give their wives gets, and they will be officially separated. And when they come back, they will remarry. So the question is in halacha, if a soldier gave such a get and he died, and we know who the person is, we know he died, does the wife or the former wife supposed to sit shiva or not? It's an interesting question. So the halacha is that she doesn't, because it's if you don't play games, if it's not a real get, it doesn't help when you need it. If it's a real get, she doesn't need to sit shiva, but she is allowed to be sad and to lament and to, mourn. Not official mourning, not Shiva mourning, but she's allowed to mourn and to be sad. And that's what she did. And apparently Uriya, we will see later, Uriya had another wife and other children, boys, other kids. And they were definitely sitting Shiva on him because that's their father. So, and she was, and in those days, they would all live in the same house or the same complex. So she was expected to be mourning. So that's what she did, together with the other children and the other wife of Uriya. And she plays the role that she needs to play. She was a very, very special woman. Eshet Chayil Mimtza, that's Batsheva, right? So she does what she's supposed to do. Vayavor Ha'evel, but after the mourning period, after the Shiva, Vayishlach David Vayasfer. So David wants her back because David loved her and felt very much spiritually as well that she is his match, his real match, and she is going to produce the heir to the throne. Vayasfa el beto, so he brought her to his house. But the Isha, so she married him. Vateled lo ben, and she gave birth. She was pregnant, as you recall, and so she gave birth to a son. And vayira adavar asher asa David b'nei Hashem. But God did not like one bit what David had done. Okay, and we're not talking about a sin, because we said again and again and again and again that he did not sin. He just did something enormously unethical and enormously immoral, and it wasn't the right thing. It wasn't what was expected from David. Now, the next chapter, which we're not going to get into deep right now, is the punishment, is the delivery of the message to David that he did something terribly wrong, and this is his punishment. Now, I wanted to say just something really short about this whole setup, and we'll get into it next time in depth. So Natan is the prophet du jour. Okay, he is the prophet. He is actually the author of the book that we're reading, the book of Shmuel Bet. Right? He's the author, Natan. And he is sent by Hashem, by God, to deliver the message, the stern message to David. And he comes to David and he gives him a mashal, an analogy. Okay, and he tells him a story, and the story goes, and we'll learn the story. And he's basically hoping that David HaMelech will render judgment in that over the person who did the wrong thing, and then Natan is telling him, but you're the one that did the wrong thing. That the story is about you, and that's what happened. We'll see all the details. I just wanted to say that why is it significant this time of year? This time of year we started learning Pirkei Avot. As you know, this past Shabbos we learned the first chapter, and we'll go to Shavuot, a chapter a week. And one of the famous chapters, one of the famous Mishnahs in Pirkei Avot is Dalif Lemiyat Omed. You should know who you should stand in front, in front of God. And who you're going to give an accounting, din, a judgment and an accounting in front of. The judgment day is going to come to each one of us eventually, and we should think about it every day. Who are we going to be judged by? So the word is din v'cheshbon, judgment and accounting. Why do you have both? You should say who you're going to be judged by, who you're going to be accounting. Why judgment and accounting? So the story from here is the lesson from here is that what's happening is that a person God is really all good, and doesn't have the heart, so to speak, to inflict pain on any of us. And when we do something wrong, God is arranging that we are going to render judgment about someone else who is in the same position as we are, and we will render his judgment, and then when judgment day comes to us, we will be accounted for that judgment. Then God is going to make the accounting. You render judgment on this guy and this guy and this guy and that guy. Now let's see who you like, who you like, and then we'll deliver to you exactly what you wanted to deliver to them. So the moral of the story is, don't render judgment on everyone, because eventually, God forbid, it can all come back as a boomerang to us. That's what we learn from chapter 12, which we'll learn next time. But anyway, I will leave you with those parting words. So,
Can I ask a question?
Of course.